So the big question is this: how do ordinary people like us that weren't born into money create true financial freedom, take back control of our lives, and live a life full of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Join me and follow along as I learn, apply, and share the strategies that the wealthy know and use that the rest of us weren't taught to create true financial freedom. My name is David Bell, and welcome to Pocket Mastermind. Jaryd, welcome to the Pocket Mastermind podcast. How's it going?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much, David. Good. Thank you for having me.
No, we were just talking before, obviously, we started recording and comparing notes on lockdown status across the different sides of the world, which is also quite interesting. But today, obviously, we're talking about buying businesses, buying online businesses, and I think perfect timing, really, with changing the way we're working, how people work, the loss of jobs globally, and entrepreneurial route could be good for some people, but they might be thinking starting a business seems really, really daunting. So there are other options, right? So today we're going to talk to you a bit about the other alternative of actually how do you buy a business that already exists? Yeah,
it's an interesting one. I stumbled across it because I started the startup route, and it's pretty hard. Like it's really hard to start a business when you've never done it before and just make it work.
Yeah. I can share that. At the moment, I left corporate world at the very beginning of this year after, years and years and years in the corporate world.
Congratulations, by the way. That's awesome. Thank
you very much. Yeah, it's really good. And luckily I'm in the fortunate position where I plan to do that. So I'm kind of figuring a lot of stuff out as I go, and things like the podcast and various other stuff I hadn't done before. But you're right, without a roadmap, there's a lot of time spent failing and trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. And so an alternative, I think, that buying a business is at least you're buying something that's already working, right? That's the thing. So what was your so you, as you said, you learned a bit, you kind of came across this from starting up yourself. What was your experience, and then where did you first buy a business? How did that come about?
Great question. I won't go through the big, long hero journey story like you hear everybody go through. I'll try to keep it short, sharp, and concise. I was the same as you. I was just working a regular job. I was a plumber, and wanted to keep traveling and doing trips. And Aussies and us from the UK, we love traveling. So
exactly.
wanted to keep that happening. And I tried to start an online business, and one day I was actually in England, and I flew from England to Dahab after I did a big trip through Europe. Dahab's in like a Sharm el Sheikh, and Dahab are quite popular places in Egypt for scuba diving. So I went there for 6 months and parked myself there, and became a dive master, and jumped on Google and thought, all right, I need to work out how I can travel the world and make money online. So I typed in how to travel the world and make money online into Google. And then popped up travel blogging and started that, tried to make a bit of money. Did that, sort of bounced around doing that. And then I started my own e-commerce site. Didn't know what digital marketing was, so I just wasn't able to sell anything. Didn't know SEO very well. Didn't know digital marketing. You just start somewhere. I was back on the tools and working and hating it. And I came across this stat that 90% of startups fail. And I thought, well, hang on. I've learned a little bit of marketing. I learned a little bit of SEO. I learned how to run some websites. They don't really have much oomph to them, but I'm sure I could buy something that's already past that 90% failure rate. It's really hard to start a online business, or any business for that matter, with the stats. Normally it's more than 90% of startups fail. So I went and typed in and see if I could find off Google how to find and buy a website. So I went and bought a website, taught myself how to buy a website. I went to a place called Flippa, FLIPPA.com. For first timers, I do not suggest buying a website business from there if you're a first timer. It's really hard because there's so many people that will start a website and they'll say it's a business and they'll submit phony financials and, you know, information. It's just not really a good business. And it's, if you're not seasoned at doing due diligence and you don't know much about business, it's easy to fall in the trap. You can see there's so many people have been scammed on Flipper. It's a great marketplace, but you need to know what you're doing. So I suggest not to go there first, like myself. And your question was, where do you go to find these businesses? That's a great question. I suggest people to type into Google and type in website brokers. So just like when you're buying a house, you go through a real estate agent or a property broker. Exact same process when you're selling an online business. You can go through a website broker who lists that, just like all the listings would be online when you're looking at a property you buy. When you're buying a digital property, you got all the listings for sale on those different website brokerage sites, and they tell you how much the site is, how much it's making per month, what work is required to run it, what you need to do to grow it, and things like that. So yeah, website brokers, check it out. It's quite fascinating when you do. Everybody listening will be pretty astounded at the returns and may get hooked for a bit. But note, there is some work to do before you go away and buy one. That's for sure.
That's it. I think one of the things, and I'm really interested in this conversation, is because there's so many like gurus out there saying, just start an online business, just start an e-com business, just drop ship. It's easy, right? And
it's so easy. Yeah.
It's super
just do it overnight and you can make $1 million in 0.25 seconds.
Exactly. And I think they sell the idea very well. But the reality is, if you don't have any background, if you've never built a website even, and like you say, digital marketing, I think one of the things I certainly found when I've started this up as I've gone along the journey is what makes as you start to look and say, well, what makes the difference between different people in different areas? And the consistency is how they're able to communicate that business. The business is one part of it, but how they're able to then reach their audience is significant. And I think you've got to spend a reasonable amount of time learning digital marketing in some form, even if you want to outsource. And I've had this conversation with other people, even at some point, if you want to outsource, you want to know what the hell you're talking about when you do outsource. Otherwise you're going to get ripped off left, right, and center.
I've been there. I've been ripped off from marketing agencies and SEO agencies and the likes. So
web design.
Yes.
So.
Yes, mate. If you don't have a brief understanding of how to check what their work and look at their reporting and measure what success looks like, then it's very hard to know what's working and what's not working. And you're right. You definitely, anybody that's in business should have some experience or knowledge of sales and marketing, especially because there's a big difference, like you said, in between working in the business and the systems of the business and then working on the business, which is usually the sales and marketing. And then also development of the systems to make the business run without you. If you get to that stage throughout your startup or business. Yeah. So there's multiple levels.
So if someone's thinking about, I'm looking to do my next thing, whether you're still employed and maybe you're thinking, actually, I want to do something different, or maybe that decision's been made for you now and you're looking around, what can I do? Can I start a business? And now that they've come across this, right, and the conversation is actually, I could buy a business. What are the kind of things to think through when you're looking for a business? I assume one would be pick something that you're interested in would be a good starting point, right? Otherwise, it's not fun anymore. Why would you want to spend your whole life doing something you hate?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question around pick something that you're interested in. Before we go back to like what are those sort of steps, I would say if you are working right now, keep working whilst you're doing this. If you're not working and you've been let go or something, get another job and get another income stream. I hear a lot of people go, hey, Jared, I'm going to quit my work. I'm going to come work with you. I'm going to join your community and do all your stuff and buy a business. I'm like, cool, but I don't want to help you if you're going to quit your job. And the biggest reason why is because the same reason why we want to buy a business usually is to have more money for the end goal of having a less stressful life and an easier life. Now, when you quit your job or you don't have a job and you're trying to find an income stream, you can make these things called emotional decisions. And that's not the best way to invest your time and your money. So I say, make sure you're not making your life any harder than it needs to be, and always have an income stream and have that as a solid foundation to build upon. And then when it comes time to looking for a business to buy, you don't have to try and make things work and do this and rush into it and make silly decisions. And then when it comes to what sort of business to buy or what sort of steps to take, is like, you go out and look for different businesses. With finding something you're passionate about, I think that's a good thing to have. It's a good thing to have, but my opinion and my view is that it's not an absolute necessity, because my first couple of businesses, actually my first 3 businesses I bought, I had zero interest in the niche. I wasn't passionate about it, but I am super passionate about business, and I'm super passionate about growing it and super passionate about learning it. And those business models allowed me to buy into the business and be invested in the business and engaged in the business. So I think it's great to have the passion, for sure. But I don't think it's a necessity.
I think that's an interesting take on it. How do you, we'll probably come on to this really, but one question, how do you then manage multiple businesses? It becomes the challenge. But before we come on to that bit, I think, what else do you need to be considering when you're looking for a business to buy? What kind of, obviously it's not one size fits all, but kind of considerations for any person around what to look out for.
Such a good question, and a broad question is you really need to know how to do your due diligence. So there's a few things that you need to check, especially with an online business, is you need to check the financials, right? Financial due diligence, SEO due diligence, marketing due diligence, competition due diligence. Then you really need to speak to the seller as well. So there's different phases of due diligence. And what due diligence is, guys, for those listening who don't know what it is, it's just a fancy word for research into the business. So you just really need to, just checking the business is a good business. And so you need to check all these different things at different levels to make sure what you're buying is what they're actually saying it is. And you need to check for the red flags. And sometimes people go, if a business has a red flag and I'm looking at buying it, I'm going to run away. A red flag does not mean that. A red flag means, okay, I don't understand this particular part about the business. I need to understand it first before I move forward. And that may mean, after finding that, becoming conscious of that red flag and everything around that. It might be, okay, I understand it and that's okay. Or it might be, now I understand it and I'm not prepared to have that risk tolerance with purchasing that business. So the next steps are, like, once you've found a business, we should back it up a bit as well. Before we start looking for a business, we should have goals. We should have financial goals, how much we want to spend. We should have guidelines on the business model and all those sorts of things as well. And then you start your due diligence. And then throughout the due diligence.
So on that topic, are there types of businesses that are more suitable maybe for someone first starting? There's obviously different levels of complexity within any business. So online would be exactly the same, and you don't want to drown yourself with too much, I'd imagine, to begin with.
Yeah, such a good question. Yes, there are easier businesses for people that have zero experience. If you have some level of experience or some level of knowledge, I would lean into that type of business model. For example, if you've worked for an e-commerce business before in digital marketing and you knew that, then it'd be smart to go away and buy a digital marketing business and plug your skills and knowledge into that to grow that asset. The same with SEO and content sites, or say software sites or membership type sites. If you have that level of experience, then lean into those business models. If you don't have any level of experience, I suggest purchasing what we call content sites, which are just websites that publish content like blogs and review websites.
Mhm.
How they make money is through ads on the site or affiliate commissions from product sales. And the reason I suggest this is because with SEO normally takes a bit of time to get ranked higher in the search engines and get search engine traffic. And you can learn those sorts of skills as you go without too much weight and pressure on yourself. However, if you buy an e-commerce business that's highly reliant on digital marketing, you should really know how to do digital marketing, or at least what we talked about before is understand digital marketing and have an agency come in and do that digital marketing for the business. But you trust, like and trust that company to get great results, and you know how to track their metrics as well. So I would say content websites are probably the smarter or easier route for a beginner who has absolutely zero experience with the online world.
And I suppose budget must come into it as well, right? Because if you're relying on digital marketing, you need an advertising budget, a marketing budget. Otherwise, you aren't going to run any ads. So it's all good buying this business. It looks like it's got decent turnover and profitability, and then if you can't continue the ad spend, that's just going to dry up instantly. So yeah, I think that's something to think about.
Yeah, so spot on. So if you're buying an e-commerce business that's reliant on marketing, normally the income will be enough to cover the ad spend. Although if you don't have the skills, like you're saying, then that can dry up because you can't repeat the same results as the existing owner of the business or the team or whoever was running the marketing. So you really need to know either what you're doing, have somebody to help you with that.
Is there, and so you pick your type of business, and then are there other key things to look out in terms of financials? Return on investment figures that are there ballparks to be looking towards to make it a good return, regardless, obviously, because price is dependent on how much anyone's willing to spend, right? But what's the return rate that people should be looking for to know that it's a viable investment?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that changes between business models as well. So a content website can be anywhere between 30 months multiple up to 36 or 38, sometimes 40, 45 even. I've seen it super high. So what a multiple is for those listening is we get the average monthly income, net profit, average monthly net profit, and times that by a multiple. So it might be 30x, which means 30 months times the average monthly net profit. And some, brick and mortar businesses use EBITDA, and that's 12 months of earnings times, say, 2 or 3, sometimes 4 years, and they call that 2 or 3x. So each broker is different. But yeah, you're kind of looking, I would say, very broadly across all business models and niches, is you roughly be looking around 3 years of net profit.
That makes sense. And obviously, the further out, the higher the multiple, then the
better the business
the risk
usually
into you, really, because that's a long time to pay back, right? If you're looking at 4 or 5 years to effectively return your investment without growth, obviously the point of buying a business is to grow it, not just to let it tick over where possible. So yeah, something to consider, that how long is it going to take you to get your cash back?
Yeah, if you're buying something for 4 or 5 years, you'll probably be buying a SaaS business, which is software as a service, or a membership business that already has people paying monthly, locked into contracts. They're paying monthly or annually or quarterly, and the income and expenses is very predictable. And the churn rate and all these different things. So, if somebody was to buy, say, Audible or Netflix, they'd get quite a decent price for it, as opposed to buying a business that didn't have, returning customers and paying monthly.
Yeah, so you're looking generally, the longer or higher valuations are based around subscription type forecastable revenue, rather than the sporadic things like affiliate sites, for example, less predictable because it's very dependent on traffic and click-throughs.
Yeah, exactly. Google traffic, search engine traffic. If you're very dependent on one single source, say just Google, then there's a big risk in that you don't have diversification of traffic, and it's the same with e-commerce businesses as well. If it's not a perishable item, so like toothpaste or toilet paper or something that people continually buy from that e-commerce business, and you're making one-time sales, then it's not super predictable, and the market can change and stuff like that as well. So,
and what kind of,
yeah.
I guess it's probably fairly open-ended, but what kind of price range are you talking for maybe somebody looking at a starter business?
Yeah. Anywhere, or for a starter, a business, like a
Someone who,
starting out investing in an
yeah,
online business.
yeah. What kind of
Yeah.
budget do you think somebody is a sensible kind of budget to be looking at as an investment?
I say nothing under $10,000, because if you're buying something under $10,000, is you're really buying yourself a startup and it doesn't have much legs. And especially for my audience, is that if they're buying something any less than that, is they're putting more stress, pressure, and work on themselves to try and build something up to get an income stream. Is normally they want to keep their job, they want to keep working and buy an income stream that's more so passive,
Mm-hmm.
and they can do maybe 2 hours of work on it per day after work, or 5 to 10 hours on the weekend. So I suggest normally spending no less than $10,000, and then you can go up as far as you like. You can go up as far as you like. There's no ceiling.
There's some
So
crazy, yeah. It depends how deep your pockets are and how big of an investment you want to make, and also I guess some of these businesses are, you've got teams of people,
yeah,
rather than kind of the solopreneur type businesses, which I imagine most people probably start more towards that end and then build their experience, and then in business owning, and then climb up.
correct. So yeah, if you're buying something in between normally the $10,000 to $100,000 range, 150, normally you're a solopreneur, and then you can hire virtual assistants or consultants to come in and help you as you go. I think that's a good place to start. You can buy businesses with teams. People that have a business around $100,000, they might have 2 people in their team. It might be a small team, and that's enough to manage for somebody who's, can manage people, or, is pretty confident. So, and then you start to go up, like when you're buying a $1 million business or more, then you're normally buying yourself into some teams. And sometimes these sellers want to sell their business with their team. Sometimes they want to keep their team, and let the other person bring in their own team and run it. I know when I buy a site, I want my team to run the site, more often than not anyway, just because I'm very confident in the
Yeah,
team.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's what you know, right? Otherwise, there's a whole new learning curve to go through of learning people, not just the business.
Oh yeah.
That's the hardest
Which
bit.
is oh mate, it's another whole game. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, for the price of the businesses, normally if people are going to go to see website brokers, they're going to Google them. They might start to see businesses in the 20 mil to 30 mil. And I don't want people to go, whoa, this is like really out of my ballpark, because that's scary. Like I know that can be scary. Like $30 million. It's most people that are starting out, it's not within their reality, and nor should it be. Don't make yourself feel anxious or stressed about that level. If you buy a 100K business, it's going to make you 30 grand a year. That's a good income still. Yeah. And if you're still not at that level, you can buy businesses around the $10,000 to $15,000 range, and they're out there. So I don't want people to, have the perception or build a belief system about what we're talking about that it's very far out of their reality, because my mission is to help people replace their income that are already working class people. And yeah, if people have that belief system or doubt themselves, then they just discount this. And I think it's a very viable route, and I've helped so many people do that. So yeah, I thought I'd just mention that.
Yeah, no, I think it's wise words. And what kind of some of the red flags, like you said before, not necessarily like no goes, but if you were, when people come to you and you're helping people go through this process, or you're giving advice to you now starting out with the benefit of hindsight and all the experience you've got, what are really the the key things to be looking out for if you're thinking about going down this route?
Great question. I look at businesses all the time, and there's so many. In fact, I think was it yesterday? No, it's probably today. Today I reviewed. So in my community, people learn how to do due diligence through my course, and then they send their due diligence to me, and I review it for them. And so one of the guys was looking at a business, and it was helping people change their names. This is actually off Flipper. Not the greatest business, but he's learned a lot from the experience in due diligence. And the person who owned the business is the marriage celebrant, and a lot of the business he got came through him and his relationships, and helping people change their names. And he said, it's roughly 5 to 10% of the people who come to the business are, through me and my relationships. Whereas we have no control or no actual way to track and be 100% certain that it's only 5 to 10%. And in fact,
couldn't it?
And I very much believe so it is. And, he spent maybe, and this is quite a cheaper business. It was, you're spending like $300 a year on SEO, which wasn't a whole lot. Oh, sorry, $300 a year on ads. Right, over a 3-month period, and a little bit on SEO, and he stopped all that through COVID, and he wasn't getting work. So it's a distressed sale, and I doubt the business is doing very well. So the red flags are when you can't track anything, when you can't measure it, and you don't understand it, then why would you continue? Like, it's too much of a risk, because you can't be certain. You can't be 100% sure that person has only got 5 to 10% of the revenue coming through his relationships, and you can't track it, you can't measure it. So that's a massive red flag that you'd want to try and probe and to look into further. And my confidence level is quite high that you wouldn't be able to actually get an accurate answer, unless you had a lie detector, I guess. I don't know, but that's pretty left field. And I want to give more justice to you.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to give more justice to your question, if that's okay, with more answer. Yeah. So with SEO, like what a risk is, or a red flag is that if the site that's being sold has most of its traffic coming through Google search engine, and there's most of the traffic is going to maybe 2 or 3 pages or 1 page on the website, say 50% of that traffic is going to that 1 page on the website, that's a bit of a risk. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a red flag. So you need to look into that further. Are you confident you can keep that number 1 ranking or number 2 ranking and still bring in all that traffic? Because if you don't, you could get knocked off that position, and you could lose, say, 50% of your traffic, which could be 50% of your revenue. Mm-hmm. And I've seen some sites that have 2 to 3 bigger pages where most of the traffic comes to it. If they lose that, then they lose a lot of their business. So that's a risk. Also, not understanding financials is a risk. Being single source dependent. Mm-hmm. So being single source dependent on one traffic source is very risky. Being single source dependent on one revenue source is very risky, where we see a lot of people who may only make money through, or maybe only get all of their traffic through Google ads or Facebook ads. If they change the algorithm and your ads stop working, which it's happened to me. I've lost tens of thousands of dollars to this. I've had to change my whole business model due to this. And then also, if you've got an affiliate website that, say, is getting commissions through one affiliate, and it could be Amazon, it could be through Walmart, it could be through any of the big affiliate programs online. If they change their commission structure or they just stop it, then you can lose your whole business as well. So there's multiple red flags and multiple risks, but they're the kind of bigger ones, I would say, that your audience, for where they're at, should be looking at or be conscious of.
Are there any what I would call kind of macro niches or industries that you work within, or do you across all sorts? And when I say that, I mean things like, health and well-being and wealth, finance kind of stuff. relationships tend to be the three macro, and everything sits beneath those three areas. Is there any particular area that lends itself to having an online business, or it very much vary?
Any industry or macro industry, micro industry, niche or sub niche or micro niche, you'd be surprised. Anything can be a business. Seriously. Yeah, I don't stick to any one at the moment, but and there's some niches and some industries or niches that have people with deeper pockets and spend more money, or are inclined to spend more money. Say, for example, people with fancy cars or boats, or the things, is it indisposable? Yeah, indisposable income, where people spend things with their indisposable income. It's a lot easier probably to sell those products and services to that audience rather than selling, say, budgeting, personal finance to somebody who's scraping a few dollars together. And no offense to anybody where they're at any level of their life, but when I was struggling with money, is like, I'm not going to be spending a whole lot of money I'm trying to hold my money. So yeah, there's different niches and different industries. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. And I think it can help, do some niche research, which is another whole story and another whole podcast in itself. It's not super duper necessary to buying a site, but it can be a good thing to know and understand.
You get an idea of what the customer demographics look like in different industries. Things like health and well-being are quite good industries generally, because they're people that is, disposable income. People are looking, they're spending money on how they look and how they feel. It's a positive intent with the spending. I think, like you said, where it comes down to
people spend anything on their health, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And pets.
Oh yeah, pets is a great one.
Pets that people spend on their dogs is crazy. So if someone's listening to this now and they're thinking, it's quite interesting but daunting, talk to us a bit about the support that you provide, the course that you offer, and how that could help somebody who's looking to potentially progress this after listening to this conversation.
Yeah, sure. So my course initially started out where I was just teaching tradies how to get off the job site. So it's a very entry level course where I've got additional courses as well, that as you grow up through the levels. But it was built for people that have zero online business experience, particularly tradies that don't know anything about even really using more than Facebook or email on their smartphone, which was me. So people can join in and they learn how to find a site, how to maybe get bit finance for the site if they want to get finance, and how to conduct due diligence. They get taught how to do that due diligence, and I also review their due diligence prior to them purchasing a site, so they don't go away and buy a lemon. So I give them a bit of a review and say, hey, you need to look at this, ask these additional questions, whatnot. All that's wrapped up in what I have is a community. So we have a big community of people who are buyers, and it's great for people to be able to network and connect. We have people doing 5, 6, and 7 figures buying, growing and selling and scaling sites in that community, and everybody sort of asks questions and chimes in and learns from each other. So it's quite a fun experience where we have virtual events, also do live trainings. A lot of cool things happen within that, and I also put out different courses, and everybody that's in the community gets access to my courses and stuff like that. So I've got a course on buying online businesses, and then I've got a course on growing online businesses, so people can ascend into growing their business once they purchase it. Sometimes people even just join because they've got a business they want to grow and they want to be a part of the community. So I'm very hands-on in my community. I was just speaking to somebody who joined the other day. It's like, I was very surprised that you actually spoke to me. In fact, every single person that joins, I send them a personal message just for them. Like the most important thing is they understand that I am there for them. Like their success is my success. And yeah, I make good money from this business, which is awesome. But what really fulfills me and I'm more about fulfillment and having a good life, is like me helping people achieve great results in online business space. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I want to answer every single question that's in the group and be there for people. I froth it. I just love it.
Well, that's why I think, you know, for most people, when you start any kind of product or business, the point is it's a product or service that's to benefit other people, right? And yes, you get paid for it, but if it's not benefiting the people, you've fallen flat on your face for the first objective of the business. So yeah, I think it's good to hear that, you know, that's at the forefront, and not always the case, but I think for most of us, when we start something, that's the whole point, right? It's the good feeling comes when somebody gets a benefit from your product or service.
Oh yeah, and your business wouldn't last very long if you didn't get people results at
No.
all. You know, you wouldn't get glowing testimonials, and you wouldn't have people that are willing to jump on the phone with you for an hour to talk about how their experience was when they're in the community, and you know, all that stuff. Yeah, I think the more you put into it, like anything, right? Like life, business, the more you put in, the more you get out. So like I just go all in. Like it's my fun business, and it's my money business as well. But I think I get more value out of it, fulfillment wise, than financially.
And how's I guess, to come back full circle, when you were talking about, you know, you went off diving in Egypt and stuff, and that was kind of where it really started in terms of wanting to detach income and time effectively, right? And so you're not just going to work on the tools. How has it changed your life now how long has it been since you first kind of made the jump, and how's your life changed since you did that?
So I made the jump in 2015. I quit my job. So 5 years. Since then, I've traveled a lot more. I've been to every continent except Antarctica. As soon as I quit my job, I went away for a year and a half and just surfed my brains out through Central and South America. It's a complete life changer, to a point where I have a job site at the end of my street, and I walk past it every single morning to go for a surf. And I can't comprehend living that life anymore, just because it's very out of my reality, where I used to wake up at 4:30 in the morning in the dark and drive an hour and a half to work, and then work for 10 to 12 hours and then drive home, and then I'd spend 5 hours on the laptop. I was a zombie. So I've really put in the hard yards, but the life is so different, where like during the day, my partner works at home. She has a home studio as well. And we have lunch, or we'll, you know, have hugs during the day. We'll hang out, do crazy things with the cat. We'll go to the beach. And this isn't like, you know, to say, you know, toot my own horn here. Like it was freaking hard to get here, but it is a massive life changer. And, when I used to hear people say this story of how their life is like, you know, they work 20 to 25 hours a week like I do. It's like, I want this now. And I was just on the phone to somebody earlier. I was like, dude, you need to realize that you see this small little thing of how my life is now, like the iceberg goes way deep.
Yeah.
And like, you want to achieve it yesterday. And I get that, because I did too. Like I wanted to achieve it quicker than you. I can always guarantee that. Yeah. So like just sticking to the route for many years and not deviating from it is what's going to get you there. As soon as you start to deviate and start something, you just get on a whole another set of train tracks, and you just need to build another whole train rail to get there. And when you jump to and fro, it's really hard. But yeah, life is quite different. Yeah.
Nice.
Does that help? Does that?
Yeah, it does. I think it's good.
It?
I think it's good to show how, you know, it does completely change, and I think being able to, and although there's, you know, the hard work setting up, you can get to a point where, and the goal really is to detach income from time. What we're very much conditioned to is you go to work, you get paid by the hour, even if you're on an annual salary. Technically, you're broken up into chunks of time, and that's what you get paid for. When you go to bed, you stop getting work. You stop getting paid. And so this kind of approach and this lifestyle is really around how do you create a more happy and fulfilled lifestyle and be financially secure, financially free, whilst doing something that you spending more time doing stuff that you like. Now that might mean that your work is something you like, or it might mean that you work less and you spend more of your free time doing the stuff that you like. However you want to cut it, I guess. And so I just want to kind of illustrate that this is one of those routes that you can then take to get you to that point.
Yeah, you're so right. Like, when you clock off at work, and there's a whole different reality. I used to think, like, hang on, we've got people that are billionaires in the world and they don't do any work.
Yeah.
They just hang out on yachts. I'm like, how the hell do they do this? How the hell do they manage so much money? They do nothing. Like, there's a different world out there. It's a different reality. And, you know, you don't have to set your end goal to be a billionaire and hang out on a yacht. That certainly would not be fulfilling for me. But I feel like the biggest reason I do this is because I want to help people have more time so they can spend that time doing what they love and with whom they love. Because at the end of the day, I believe the most valuable things that you take to the grave are experiences with the people you love. And experiences with the people you love could be an experience that you have for yourself because you love yourself and you love having those experiences. And it could be with your friends, it could be with your family, it could be with random people. But like you, I'm sure you would agree, is like, time is so much more valuable. It's easy for me to say that in theory, like it really is, because I was in the massive perception as like, I'll give as much time away right now to have all the money. So I get it on both wavelengths, but it will shift. And when it does, I think it's a thing of beauty.
I think the thing with time is looking at it as in how are you investing it, and that's a different spin on things, because you're always spending it, but are you investing as you spend? So like when you say there was lots of hard work and lots of time went into this, it was the investment that's now paying back. You know, sitting around doing nothing with your time, Netflix, whatever it is, social media hour after hour is not invest. That's just purely spending time, and that's not going to pay you back in the future. If anything, you're building a time debt for the future because you're not going to have the skills. You're not going to have the advantage, and reality is you're probably going to be more miserable.
Oh, spot on. I think that analogy of investing and debt, like, is such a good way to think about it. Like, when you're sitting on the couch or social media land and, you know, you're just racking up lots of debt, and it can get so big that you're not able to pay it off. You know, the second and third order consequences of that, the compounding effect of that. Nice. And then on the opposite side of like investing your time, like every time is spent, no matter what, right? Like you said, time is spent. You could spend it on racking up debt, or you could invest it into something that's going to give you an ROI. I couldn't have summed it up better, David. That's awesome. Yeah.
And you know, one thing I try and help, you know, when I'm talking to people is really think about what you're gonna get back, and also think about when you're spending time, if it's productive, you may not feel like you're getting a direct result from it, right? So learning, for example, reading a book or doing a course or doing something else, you may feel like you spent a whole day and you haven't moved forwards in your business, but you're moving forwards in the way in which you operate, in the way in which you see the world, and then your skills and ability, and it will pay back at some point in the future. And you've got to get over, and it's something I had to work on myself, is feeling like you spent a whole week and nothing to show for it, but it pays back in another month or 2 or 6 or whatever it is. And that's just a mindset thing to try and get your head around, is right, really get stuck into the stuff early as possible that's going to pay back in the future. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in the tangible things at the expense of the intangible, the softer stuff. Yeah, spot on. And, you know, even like micro level steps of, like, if you're spending time on social media or Netflix, if you want to be more productive than doing that,
even just stopping that is going to be more productive, because the compounding effect and the second and third order consequences are you just free up all this time, and this time allows you to think, and that time thinking can allow you to put it into ideas, or, you know, how you're going to invest your time and your money more wisely. But when you're, you know, a zombie and unconscious on this crazy vessel here, it can be very destructive. In fact, I've got some really good time management things that I use with my phone. That's quite
I'm going to
profound.
come on to those in a second, I reckon.
Cool.
I've got some quick fire questions for you. Yeah, I think that's a very, very wise point to make. Any final, before we go on to these quick questions, any final thoughts for anyone listening who's kind of interested in what we've been discussing?
Yeah. Final thoughts is that, like, this may be for you. It may not be for you. If it is, then go down the route and research it. And if it vibes with you, awesome. If it sits well in your stomach, great. If it doesn't, then, you know, find something that does. Yeah. And just stick to the path. Like, once you find a path, just stick to it. And the path ahead will change. But once you change tracks, then you're going way back and starting again. That's all I'd have to say before we hit some rapid speed questions, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, so with that and looking at the clock, we'll fly through these. So do you have a morning routine, and if you do, what does it look like, and kind of what benefits have you seen from doing it, if that is the case?
Yeah, I used to have a quite strict morning routine where I'd wake up, I would visualize for a number of minutes, and then I would do gratitudes, all the crazy things to dancing and all these different things that I've tried out. Right now, it's a bit different. I'll wake up. Normally, I'll visualize the lifestyle I want, and also think about, you know, the high leverage tasks that I need to do, or I can put the team onto doing. And then I'll do DNS. DNS is deep neuromuscular system. It's a type of exercise, you could say, or stretching I do for my body instead of yoga, and then I go for a surf. So yeah, normally it consists of visualizing, thinking, bit of exercise / stretching, and then go for a surf. That's how I start my day most days. Yeah.
Nice. Now we're all jealous that we don't live on the Gold Coast.
I wear a wetsuit as well at the moment because it's just coming out of winter, so it's still cold.
Yeah, it's cold by your terms.
Yeah.
Okay. 3 books that you'd recommend, and why?
Okay. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Why? Emotional intelligence. And understanding that roadblock you have has so much lessons and so much feedback in it. If you were to only listen to it, you'd be able to overcome it. And having the emotional intelligence to do so. I think that's really important. It was a game changer for me, that book, through a period in my life, and really helped me learn what emotional intelligence was, and made my life so much better for it. And all of Ryan Holiday's work is really good. He's got, can I mention some of his other books, even though they're not on my list?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Being a bit greedy here. So he's got The Ego is the Enemy as well. And this book here, which is called The Daily Stoic. I'm pretty big into Stoicism, which emotional intelligence. So like I read a page of that a day. So my first book or first author would be him.
Yeah, I like the way some people bend the rules on this.
Sorry about that.
Good, yeah.
Sorry to the listeners who like trying to make this end quicker.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Second book is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. That's been a massive energy shift for me in knowing how to say no, knowing what to say no to, and only working on the things that are the high leverage tasks for me, and just freeing up space, freeing up time for creativity. And just following essentialism, the path of essentialism. It was really big for me. Yeah.
Good, all good,
Um,
all good recommendations here. I haven't read these, but the topics are perfect.
yeah, they're good books. I guess all of them haven't been tactical business books, but they're mindset,
So
great
important.
mindset books.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah, I think it's more important than the tactical. It's the foundation that the tactical can lay on. And the last one, if I may, is Your Life, Your Legacy by Roger Hamilton. Just an amazing book. Why do I like this? It helps you identify what your wealth profile is, or your, maybe some people might call it an archetype, your wealth archetype, and what you're good at, what you're not so good at, and how to find your flow as a human being and as an entrepreneur, and doing more of that. And just some of the, I picked it up maybe 2 weeks ago, and just reading like the first couple of pages, just the quotes and the depth, just the sheer depth within that book is phenomenal. Roger Hamilton, Your Life, Your Legacy.
All of those going on my list. My list. I keep saying this every time I ask these questions. My list gets ridiculously long. Uh, three people that you would you either follow or listen to that you'd recommend listeners checking out.
That's a good question, because I'm not much of a follower in terms of like social media.
Could be a podcast, could be a
Yeah,
writer, could be any in any medium. Someone someone who you think has a good message or messages that will help people.
James Schramko is an Aussie. He's been on my podcast. I've been on his. Very smart guy. I look up to him. He's got a great podcast. It's called Super Fast Business Podcast. I like Ryan Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. This is a tough one for me.
It's a
It
tough one
really
for
is.
quite a lot of people.
Yeah. Um, hmm. There's some actors, and there's one person I really like who would be at the top of my list. Is his name's Kelly Slater. He's a professional surfer. He's won the most championship tours and the most world tours in the world. I guess he's not so much of an entrepreneur. He's definitely an investor. He owns some pretty awesome companies, some awesome businesses, and they're very environmentally friendly. And I just think he's just got a great approach to life in terms of health, work balance. He's an athlete. He's 45 and he's on the world tour. He's been on the world tour for so long. The youngest person on the world tour and the oldest person on the world tour. He's the most, I would say, he's won the most championships out of any sport in the world. And I will arguably say he's the best athlete ever. Just because of his body, he's still competing with the best people in the world for so many years. And yeah, I just like his approach to life, business, and health. And yeah, Kelly Slater.
Great.
It's a bit of an oddball for the listeners.
Well, I think a lot can be learnt from the elite level, like the pinnacle of any sport. Right? There's a reason why Kelly Slater, Lewis Hamilton, Roger Federer, all of the Serena Williams. There's a reason why they are the pinnacle of the pinnacle, right? Because it's the mindset and the way in which they approach everything about their lives, and the same thing is so important when it comes to business or any other area of your life. It all starts with everything we see started with a thought. We take it for granted so often, but the stuff that we're talking to each other on started with a thought. Everything in the background for you there started, someone they thought this thing and then they made it, right? And so everything that we achieve or don't is a result of thinking in one way or another. And so it's so important. And I think elite level sports people can be a great example. And listen to the message, because they're very good at communicating good ways of going about stuff. And I think it gets lost in the noise of just being, they're happy about winning stuff. But actually they give away an awful lot of good advice whilst in acceptance speeches and all of that stuff. So yeah, good choice. 3 habits or disciplines, or good habits or disciplines that you've kind of adopted over the years that you think have made a big difference to where you are now.
3 habits or disciplines.
Your visualization sounds like one.
Yep, that's definitely that's top for sure. Visualizations.
In fact, your whole morning is quite mindful. Like, all the way through, even surfing, right? It's a mindful activity, sport first thing in the morning, particularly something like surfing that requires balance and variability and all the rest of it. It's a mindful activity.
Yeah, I would say a habit of obsessing. So yeah, visualization for sure. I'd also add a habit of an obsession for and a hunger for knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a great habit for me. And discipline. I think discipline is the most undervalued habit, or the most undervalued tool you can have in your arsenal to anything, not even being an entrepreneur, but any level of achievement. And I think discipline is so valuable. Discipline to change things on your phone. Discipline to, for me, discipline to stop working and having a rest.
That's the other challenge that comes in, because suddenly when your time isn't dictated, you've got to dictate your own time.
Yeah, I think discipline. I'm gonna say that one. Discipline is,
it's the rocket fuel that gets everything done. I think people get on motivation, but motivation comes and goes like that, and it's never there when you really need it. Motivation, because when stuff gets difficult, motivation runs and hides. So I found that discipline is the thing that keeps you going. And they talk about, if you I think it's Atomic Habits, and they talk about Michael Phelps, and I think in his entire career he missed one 5 a.m. training session. That was for a wedding. Other than that, he was in the pool at 5 a.m. every single day, no matter where he was in the world. Even during the Olympics, he still did his 5 a.m. training sessions, and that's discipline. That's discipline.
And also, like, discipline mixed in with sacrifice. Like, imagine the things that he sacrificed to do that. Like, insane. 5 hours, a 5 hour chunk every single day.
Nice.
There's other weddings he would have missed.
Yeah,
I'm certain of it. So many things that he would have missed. And some people can't even be disciplined to turn off their phone for a day, or not take it with them for a day, or something like that.
Read a book instead of watch TV. Anything, little things. Yeah, and it makes such a big difference.
I love love what you said about motivation. I wholeheartedly agree with it. Like, motivation is a piece of energy that you can get from something that's external to yourself. It could be a video, it could be an audio, it could be something you read or saw. And what I like to tell my clients is that, motivation is not going to work. It's actually just like junk food. It's just filling a spot, it's filling a void. And if anything, it's going to cause you damage because you get all motivated and you don't achieve anything, and you actually put more pressure and stress on yourself. Instead, I like to work from the inside out. In fact, I helped one of my cousin actually name his business. It's on training, exercise and training. It's called Inside Out. And I love the inside out approach. Mm-hmm. And that is that inside out, when you're talking about something you want to achieve, not using motivation and junk food or junk media, using inspiration comes from within you. And the only way you can have inspiration is through visualization. And that's my philosophy, in my opinion. And that's why I think the visualizing is so big.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Three, and you kind of started to touch on this before, but 3 tools or systems, apps, whatever you want to call them, that you now couldn't live without.
I couldn't live without my laptop. I could probably live without my phone.
Or a simpler phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a phone and text. As long as I don't have to do those old school texts, like press the button 4 times so get one letter. That's disgusting. I remember those. Yeah. So my laptop, one tool I couldn't live without. Another tool that I couldn't live without is money. Mm-hmm. And
what about some of those apps you got on that device that might help you be more productive?
Probably Gmail. That's about it.
Good.
Yeah, Gmail. No other app is. I've got the library app. Gmail and the library app get the most attention, and that's it.
Last question. If you could spend 1 hour with anybody, dead or alive, who would that one person be? I'm glad I'm the one that asked this question because I'd struggle to answer it.
Yeah, there's so many amazing human beings, isn't there? Mm-hmm. I would probably say for where I want to be, not for where I want to be, but to achieve some of the things that I want to achieve. Business-wise, it would be Warren Buffett.
Nice choice.
Yeah.
Nice choice.
Yeah.
Still a very wise head to be watched, particularly now. Watch what he's doing because he's not moving the way the markets are moving, and
he moves the markets.
It's true. And I think it's worth keeping an eye on him during these interesting economic times, because the direction that him and Berkshire Hathaway go will be a good indication. And for the majority of the last 6 months, they've sat very, very quietly, which suggests that they haven't seen the end of the current market conditions. So, yeah, definitely worth.
As am I. Just
same. The discipline is another discipline.
Yeah.
Patience in the marketplace. It's very easy to get caught up in the hype of everything that goes on, particularly if you look at the States, the S&P 500 with a very rapid recovery, founded on nothing of substance whatsoever.
A breath of air.
Completely terrifying. So, yeah, keep an eye out. Jaryd, thank you very, very much for giving up your time and for all of the insight. Where can people learn more about the course or track you down if they want to learn more about buying online businesses or growing their online business?
Yeah, just go to buyingonlinebusinesses.com. We've got a podcast there. We're the 3rd best passive income podcast online. So we're chasing Pat Flynn, who's number 2. And yeah, just if you're interested, I would just say listen to maybe a couple of episodes of my podcast. If it vibes with you, then go through more. If it doesn't, find something else, and that's okay as well. If you want to know more about what we do, there's links to the community and all that sort of stuff on the page. Yeah, first see if like this is a, you know, I'm somebody you'd like to follow and a path that might be right for you. If it's not, find something that does. There's so many ways.
Perfect. So true. There are unlimited ways, pretty much.
Mm.
Now it's never been more options, right? You've got the power of the internet,
which is also scary.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's where we human beings, we struggle with focus and trying to
yeah,
direction. That's one of the challenges. But look at the good side. We've got so much more choice and opportunity that you can do from your own home. If we were living even 20 years ago, it would have been more challenging and 30 impossible, right? You wouldn't have these opportunities available to us.
Oh man, we're so lucky. Like seriously, the way the world has sort of evolved for us, like just made our lives so much easier to do this. Like, oh, it's so good. And even people that have jobs, like being able to work from home now, like it's just opened up the eyes to the digital world. And yeah, it's fun. It's exciting.
It is. And what a good way to end. Thank you again for all your time and like I said, the insight. For anyone who's enjoyed listening to this, we'll make sure we've got the links on the website so they can get in contact with you. And also, if you'd like to listen to this episode, then you can listen to all of the others. The links are all there as well. And remember to follow us, subscribe, like, share, spread the word as far and wide as you possibly can. But thank you, Jaryd, and thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation. If you enjoyed it and you'd like to hear more similar episodes, head over to pocketmastermind.com, where you'll also find the links mentioned in this conversation. And if you haven't done so already, please leave us a review. It will really help us to get our message out and let more people know about these episodes. So leave us a review, leave us a rating, hit the subscribe button, and please share with your friends. Until next time, thank you again for listening.